If you're a high-achieving woman who's exhausted by stress, stuck in constant conflict, and tired of being overlooked in the exact rooms where you know you were born to lead, then this podcast is for you. So here's your host, Pallavi Jain.
Welcome back, everyone, to her Boss Brain podcast. And for those who are here for the first time, welcome, my friends. I'm your host, Pallavi, former HR leader, CEO of Pallavi Leadership Group, and creator of the Leap From Within program. Now, before we begin, I want to ask you something, and I truly want you to be honest with yourself. Where are you right now? Not physically, mentally. Are you here with me? Or are you already running your to-do list, replaying a conversation from yesterday, or worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet? Because if you're anything like me, especially as a high-achieving woman, juggling work, family responsibility, expectations, your body might be here, but your mind is rarely home. And that's what today's episode is about: the power of presence. Not as a concept, not as some spiritual idea, but as a real lived experience that gives you back your power, your clarity, your calm, and your ability to choose differently in moments that usually run you. Now, what's ironic is that for the last few days, I've been wanting to record this episode and I couldn't. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I wasn't present enough to say it. Wanting to talk about how presence has given me back my power, and then procrastinating, actually sitting down to write or talk about presence itself. But this morning, after I came out of my meditation, it hit me hard. I've actually barely been present the last 2 to 3 days. Holidays are approaching. I have an upcoming workshop for an IT company, which involves travel, a full day customized experience. And literally the next day, I'm flying out with my family for a beach vacation to relax and spend time with my loved ones. Yes, my mind has been everywhere except here. I have a gazillion things going on in my head. And when I really reflected, I noticed how I had even been short sighted with my kids, snapping at them about cleaning the house, getting overwhelmed about packing, and then school logistics like the winter concert has to happen now, science project deadline, and honestly, not even fully listening when my husband was talking to me at some moments. And here's the part that bothered me the most when I slowed down enough to notice it: that it wasn't the to-do list, it wasn't the travel, it wasn't even the stress. It was what I was missing while handling everything. I was physically there, but emotionally checked out, listening, but already forming my response, sitting with my kids, but mentally running through what was next. And no one called me out on it. That's the scary part. Because when presence fades slowly, no alarm goes off. You just wake up one day realizing you've been moving through life instead of living inside it. And the guilt doesn't show up louder either. It shows up quietly, as impatience, as irritability, as that short fuse, literally, that can go off anytime. But something shifted this morning for me. As soon as I truly arrived in the present moment, not conceptually, but fully, I noticed all of that mental noise. And at the same time, the tension faded. Because in that moment, I wasn't replaying what I had already done wrong, and I wasn't anxiously rehearsing what might happen next. I was simply here. And then I realized something that actually made me laugh at myself: that the reason I was procrastinating, writing about presence, was because I wasn't present enough to write about presence. Isn't that insane? What was actually happening in my brain was most of our stress doesn't come from what's happened. It comes from what our mind is replaying or rehearsing. And while we are busy time traveling to past and to future, life is happening without us. The only place real life is unfolding, we're not there. There's a network in your brain called the default mode network. That's what's active when you're replaying the past or rehearsing the future: the rumination, the worry, self criticism. Presence interrupts that loop. It brings the brain out of rumination and back into reality. And here's something most people don't realize: your brain doesn't fully distinguish between real danger and imagined danger. So when you mentally time travel, your amygdala fires as if something is actually wrong right now. Stress hormones rise, muscles tightens, breathing becomes shortened. But the moment you arrive in the present, even by noticing your breath, the prefrontal cortex comes back online, the rational part of your brain. That's the part of the brain responsible for regulation, for perspective, and choice. So presence isn't passive. Presence restores leadership internally first. And that's why this doesn't require fixing your life, it requires coming back to it. Now, presence isn't just mental either, it's physiological. When you pause, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system called the PNS, which is the restful response of your body, the break. And then your body receives the signal, you're safe right now. That's when your shoulders drop, clarity returns, right? When I opened my eyes after meditation this morning, nothing outside had changed. It was the same house, same responsibilities, same to do lists waiting for me. But inside, something had shifted. I noticed my breath before my thoughts. And for the first time in the last 2 to 3 days, I wasn't bracing for what was coming next. There was a quiet relief. It was subtle. But I remember thinking, this is what I've been missing. I used my inner ATM to cash out what was already there: calm, clarity, joy. Starting with the first step, of course, A, arrive in the present moment. The mental time travel stopped, energy leaks stopped, overwhelm softened. And now that I had arrived, I could take the next step, T, take responsibility. Not for everything, just for this moment. I asked myself, what truly matters right now? And what can I actually do right now? And once that became clear, the last step was simple. M, make a conscious choice. Stop overthinking. Take inspired action. And this is how I stopped leaking energy. This is how I go from snapping at my kids to being someone I actually recognize. It really was that simple. But yes, it's not always easy because we often get stuck in self created drama. And in all of this, I have to tell you this, that I also felt deeply grateful for my husband and my kids for giving me grace over these days when I wasn't fully myself. Presence gave me humility because once you see clearly, it matters that you go back and you say to these people, thank you, right? To hug your people a little tighter, to let love fully land. That's what presence does. It pulls you out of cycles you don't actually want to live in. So pause with me right now. Close your eyes. Take a slow breath in through your nose and exhale out through your mouth. Drop your shoulders. I want you to do it one more time. Take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale fully from your mouth. Keep your eyes closed and ask yourself quietly, am I present? And just like that, you are. Take the next step now. T, take responsibility. Ask yourself, what truly matters right now? What can you do about it? Make a conscious choice. Pause this episode if you need to and take one small inspired action right now. Now, if you did that, I want to hear about it. Comment below, share your story, tell me what you chose and how it felt. And here's today's challenge for everyone. Use the ATM at least 2 times today and notice what shifts. Now, let me share one story that completely changed how I see myself today. Imagine it's a hot summer afternoon. There are deserted roads, tiny Ferris wheels roll through the neighborhood with music playing. Kids are coming out, parents are exhausted, and there is this little girl hiding behind thick curtains, peeping out, terrified of missing out, but even more afraid of getting on the ride. That little girl was me. Years passed. Vacations came and went. I cheered everyone on, took their pictures, quietly hoping no one would force me to do the fun things because I believed I couldn't. And then last year, my husband and I went to Disney with our kids. My stress levels you can imagine, through the roof. And then something magical happened. Okay. I took every ride, every single one. Guardians, Tron, Avatar, Everest, Big Thunder, you name it, right? And what I felt in those moments, I can't fully explain it. There was this liberation, freedom, empowerment. A burden fell away. I didn't have to stay behind anymore. Like maybe I was capable of more than I believed. And here's the most important part. Nothing outside of me changed. The rides didn't change. The fear didn't disappear magically. The only thing that changed was my presence. I literally stopped standing in line and imagining everything that could go wrong. I stopped replaying old stories about what I can't do. And that familiar voice showed up, of course, saying, "You can still walk away. Why force this? You've never been good at this." So fear doesn't scream, it actually sounds reasonable. And in the past, that voice always won. Okay. But this time, instead of arguing with it, instead of getting soaked in it, I stayed with my breath, with my body, with my kids, with the ground under my feet, with that moment. Not 5 minutes from now, not at the drop, right now. I was safe. And something remarkable happened. The fear didn't disappear, but it lost control. Presence didn't erase fear, it changed my relationship with it. And here's something powerful to reflect on for you. Think about it. Anytime you have been worried about a future event or scared, was it ever as awful as your mind made it out to be? Probably not. Because the brain anticipates threats on turbocharged emotion. But presence brings you back to what's real. This story isn't about rights. It's about fear, it's about belief, liberation, and most importantly, choice. That fear that kept me stuck was created by me, and the empowerment that freed me was also created by me. By arriving in the present, taking responsibility, and making a conscious choice. And this shows up everywhere, especially in leadership. In meetings where you're present but not really listening. In conversations, you rush because your mind is already ahead. In decisions clouded by imagined worst case scenarios. Presence is what gives leaders access to choice. Not perfection, but intentionality. Think about it. It is no surprise or accident that the last three executive women we have had on this platform, all of them said one thing that helps them stay intentional and be successful and create the magic they are creating in their lives and at work, not getting burnt out and actually inspiring others was what? To pause and arrive in the present moment. So now, when accomplished women at the highest levels tell you the same thing, to not hustle harder but pause, it's worth paying attention. Presence creates the smallest pause, and that pause is where choice lives. And choice is power. Because yesterday doesn't define you. The choices you make in the present moment define what unfolds next. So don't wait for life to slow down. Don't wait for fear to disappear. Arrive. Take responsibility. Choose. And be the creator of your future, one present moment at a time. Now, before we end today, I want to bring this all together and to leave you with this, that remember that presence isn't about controlling life. It's about meeting life as it is without abandoning yourself in the process. Every time you arrive in the present moment, you interrupt an old pattern. You step out of fear. You reclaim choice. Because presence creates a pause, and that pause, however small, is where your power lives. This is why the ATM framework works. Not because it's complicated, but because it brings you back home. Right? Remember, arrive, take responsibility, not for everything, just for what truly matters right now. And make a conscious choice. That's how you break your cycle. That's how fear loosens its grip. And that's how you stop leaking energy into imaginary future and unchangeable pasts. Yesterday does not define you, but the choices you make in this moment, quietly, and intentionally shape what unfolds next. Now, if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who lives in their head the way we often do. And if you applied the ATM today, I'd love to hear what changed for you. Leave a comment or send me a message. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, arrive here more often. And remember, everything you need is already within you. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
So that's it for today's episode of our Boss Brain podcast. Head on over to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week that posts a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes will win a chance in a grand prize drawing to win a $25,000 private VIP day with Pallavi herself. Be sure to head on over to her bossbrainpodcast.com and pick up a free copy of Pallavi's gift and join us next time.